If I carry you go to Ekpe, my guy, you go love Lagos, If I carry you go VGC, my guy, you go love Lagos.
Well, thank you.
See the police, Governor Ambodo Kokoshi, helicopter loki. You cannot deny you don't see.
The responsibility on the part of the government and the people is a fact we all know. So keeping the Lagos metropolis clean is a major task, not just for the state government, but for everyone. One that has not been easy to achieve due to indiscriminate dumping of refuse on the roadside, complete disregard for the environment by the people, on and on like that. Well, we have here someone to talk about the efforts being made to achieve that kind of environment in Lagos. The Managing Director and CEO of the Lagos State Waste Management Authority, Dr. Muyiwa Gbadigeshi. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. And how are you?
I'm very well. First of all, let us know whether or not it is true that the environmental sanitation that restricts movement in Lagos is coming back.
It's not coming back for now. And so what we've been doing is a weekly environmental sensitization. And that's where the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, led by the Honorable Commissioner, that's Tukumba Wahab, along with the permanent secretaries, directors in the ministry, and also Lagos Waste Management Authority, as well as other agencies within environment, like Lagos Wastewater Management Office, like Lagos Parks and Gardens. So what we do is we go into a community of choice. We've gone to Mushin about 2 weeks ago. Following that, we went to Mobile Road. That's in Ajeromi Feludu, all the way to Alaya Biagba Market. And at each of those locations, we engage with people in the community. We do cleanup, and they also join us. And we do advocacy to them, or with them, about the importance of managing their waste properly, which means that they have to containerize the waste, and they also have to patronize the PSP operator for their community. We continue to do that every single week. We go out, sometimes it's Saturdays, sometimes it's Sundays, and we'll continue doing that until a time that we can, if necessary, we'll then begin a monthly environmental sanitation.
So far, what has that process that you talked about, what has it produced?
What it has produced is a greater level of awareness from the community. You know, with Lagos, we have 22 million residents, and many of those residents are they come in every day. People are coming in every day. Some of them may not know about the system of waste management in Lagos, so they believe, maybe wherever they're coming from rural areas, that it's okay to have open dump sites. But that's not the system in Lagos. It's against the law for you to take your waste to the road, to the roadside or to the median. That's actually, you're breaking the law if you do that. And those that we catch doing that, we arrest them and take them straight to court. The system is that you must have a container in your house, and you keep your waste in the house. You sign up with a PSP operator. Every ward in Lagos has a PSP operator. There are 377 wards. We have 420 PSP operators, because some wards are so big, we need to have more than one. And the PSP operators are there, and you can sign up with them, and then you pay your waste bill monthly. That's the system. But we find that we have to continuously sensitize and teach people the right thing to do. And yes, some people they don't want to obey the law. You see them all the time. People who dump their waste, they just throw it out of the window. A lot of markets, for example, are also indisciplined. They have PSP, they don't want to pay. They start owing the PSP, then they now bring their waste onto the road. So that's what we're trying to do, advocacy. So the level of awareness is important, but it also, what it does by us going out as the Ministry of Environment family, is that when we visit a community, we can also see issues that need to be addressed. which we can't see by staying in the office. So we can ask the community, what are the problems? Sometimes maybe the PSP operator is not working well. So we can address that. You know, if there are issues with drainage that we need to, you know, mobilize and do some kind of emergency intervention, we can decide that on the spot.
You've talked about the PSP operators for a bit now. There are some people who complain about the services of these PSP operators, for instance, that they don't show up regularly to pick up refuse. And I know that maybe there are other complaints like that. What are you doing? What are you putting in place to address those issues? First of all, what are those issues aside from this one that I just mentioned?
So there are a lot of challenges with the PSP system. As you know, it's been in operation for close to 20 years. And there are issues with the ability of the PSP operators to recapitalize their business. That means to buy new equipment, especially in the last year or two, with the escalating cost of diesel. You know, at some point it went up to 1,600, 1,500 naira per liter. As well, the FX crash led to an increase in the cost of spare parts, you know, things like tires, batteries, and, you know, other spare parts that they need. The government is doing a lot. We support them with subsidies every month. We're also in the process of supporting them to acquire new equipment, which will be CNG-powered trucks. These are much cheaper, and as you know, there's a presidential CNG initiative. So it's a national energy transition plan, which Lagos State is ahead of the curve. So with us at Lagos Waste Management Authority, we're working with Ibile Oil and Gas to establish that network of filling stations at some of our own operational sites. Then we are encouraging the PSP operators to convert to CNG trucks. The CNG right now is about 260 naira per liter. So automatically they reduce their cost by 75% of fueling. That will make it easier for them to fulfill their responsibilities. Another major challenge is that people don't pay their bills. In many places, people refuse to pay the PSP operator. And those are actually the places where we have to support them with subsidies so that they can operate. So we appeal to the residents to pay their bills on time. It's also a law in Lagos. As long as you are occupying a tenement in Lagos, whether you're a business or you're a household, you must pay a PSP operator. So we'll continue to look for ways to improve that level of compliance, while we also continue to support the PSP operators by helping them with new equipment, like I said.
You know, when you say it's a law for people to pay their waste bin, and services and all of that, it will sound rather tough, because I'm very sure a good number of people watching you right now wonder, wait a minute, when did that law come up? So the challenge is not whether or not it's a law. The challenge is whether or not people are aware of some of these initiatives.
I would say that most people are aware of the fact that they have a PSP operator for their area.
Including the people at the markets who put it at the center, in the middle of the
They do have PSP operators. So then that's why as soon as we enforce the law when it comes to markets. As you know, since last year, we've been shutting down a lot of markets. And one of the major offenses is when they refuse to pay the PSP operators that has been assigned to them. Once we seal them up, they now go immediately, they rush to go and, come up to date with their bills. Why? They knew they weren't paying before, but they didn't expect any kind of enforcement. And that's what we find. I don't think it's unique to Nigeria that people will look for ways to evade the law. It happens even in developed societies. And that's why, as a government, our primary responsibility is to enforce the law. These laws have been passed by House of Assembly of Lagos State. They've been signed into law by the governor. This is what makes Lagos what it is. We have laws, and everyone must obey that law. And even saying that you don't know about the law is not a good enough excuse.
So which PSP operators service bus stops and main roads?
Those, we service main roads as Lagos Waste Management Authority. We have 44 routes that we run on a daily basis with the 102. We have 102 trucks, which are for servicing public spaces, facilities, roads. So when we go out where people have dumped waste illegally, we'll clear it. And then we try to identify where did that waste come from. Is it a business? Recently, we had to seal a lounge where they had brought all their waste out onto the median along Agor Palace Way. And we looked at the waste. You could see the wine bottles, liquor bottles, is so much. And it's strange because what they dumped onto the road has value. I have a foreign company here in Lagos that recycles glass. They're always asking me to help them to get more and more glass. So does it make sense for you to dump something that has value on the road? And that's the other thing that
we're sell.
Yes, 50% of our waste. We generate 13,000 tons of waste every day in Lagos. The population, 22 million people. At least 50% of that is organic waste. Then you have plastics, you have metals, you have glass. All of this has value. What we're trying to encourage people with our recycling initiative is that instead of throwing this away, you can keep that waste, sort it, keep it separate, whether it's in your home or your house. And we have recyclers who will come and take that from you and then give you incentive. The system we're developing, and one of the things we've rolled out to support that is the 2-bin system. We have smart bins, which you start seeing adverts for that very soon. There's a green bin, which is for your general waste, which may not have value. And then there's a blue bin for recyclables. And we've started enumerating all these scavengers around Lagos. We've enumerated about 5,000 of them. And we're going to put them in uniform with ID cards and cargo bicycles because it's more environmentally friendly, it's also cheaper. So with the cargo bicycles, they can move around the community. They will take whatever you've kept in your blue bin, take it from you, then they record that on a POS using your carry card, which is also a Lagos State initiative that we use for transport. And through that carry card, we now give you incentives for whatever you're recycling. So that means you can turn your waste into money. That's the system we want in Lagos as a modern megacity. And it's integrated into the themes agenda of the Sanwo-Olu administration. Because you see the H is health and environment, M, making Lagos a modern megacity, and E, education and technology. There's so many initiatives embedded in that. So this recycling, sorting at source, is one of those critical initiatives.
Because I asked about the bus stops particularly because it can be really upsetting to see such iconic places where people gather from time to time.
Yes.
Littered as it is. So again, it begs the question whether or not there is any ownership by the people. Because if we owned the process, I don't think we'll be having that same problem.
You're very correct.
So how do we get people to own the process?
Yeah, that's a very important observation. This keeping a city clean has to be a collective exercise. The state government cannot do it alone. And that's why we're saying that our waste has value and we have to engage every sector of community. So with respect to the bus stops, we are talking to the NURTW about this recycling as well. In Lekki Phase 1, we're going to launch an initiative called Waste Free Lekki. It's a partnership between the Food and Beverage Recyclers Alliance and UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Within Lekki, we've identified 25 bus stops. Just that estate. It's a government scheme. We identified 25 bus stops, and we're going to put one of our street sweepers, the older ones who we don't want sweeping the road again, with a recycling bin. They'll have an umbrella so they're not under the sun, and a seat. So anybody passing with anything, instead of them throwing it away, just give it to them. And they'll give you a ticket or, use your card and you can record. By the end of the month, you see an alert. So that means that bus stop becomes a point of collection of valuable material. Similarly, we go to the NURTW and we say, look, if you have organic waste here, whether it's your food waste, we have people chasing waste in Lagos. You see all these plastic bottles that people are gathering. It's a lot of money. You won't believe how much money it's worth. It's about, according to Food and Beverage Recyclers Alliance, $2.5 billion worth of recycling activity in Lagos. And that's what we want to harness. The way we're going to engage people is by giving them some kind of value for what they're recycling.
Okay. By the way, Victor is sending a message in from X. Please tell the GM, I'm hereby telling you, these guys who sell noodles and eggs at street corners are guilty of this. At Eric Moore Junction and Sensors by the canal, let them be fined. End of quote.
And we will do that. We will do that. There's a major problem with illegal street traders in Lagos, whether they are hawkers or, and that's why part of the reason why the state government banned styrofoam packs. Because they're so cheap, people were just throwing them everywhere. You see them in the drainage, but now you see very little of it. So there's just waking up and going to the roadside and beginning to trade is wrong. You must go to a market or you must go and get a shop. But we have it happening all over Lagos. Like I said, a lot of people come into Lagos and they don't have anywhere to stay and they're sleeping in open spaces, trading wherever they can trade because they want to survive. And so we continue to monitor and enforce and identify those people. Well, we'll go to that location and take action.
Well, we have another one from MPO Reports who says, how does LAWMA achieve its aim of a clean city with an increasing population of wheelbarrow pushers who pretend to collect wastes?
That's a major problem, cart pushers. Cart pushers...
But they were the PSP operators when it started.
But they're not licensed to operate. They're not PSP operators.
Okay.
They're not PSP operators. They're people who are taking advantage of gaps or loopholes in the system.
Okay.
So there are some places that are inaccessible to PSP operators, or people don't want to pay whatever the PSP operator is charging. So they then call the cart pusher. But what the state government is doing with that is that we have a partnership, which is a partnership for waste treatment with a Ghanaian company. And we observed that in Ghana, they use tricycle compactors. These are motorized equipment. They can access areas that you can't take trucks to. And they use a pay-as-you-go model for waste collection. So for those kinds of areas, rural areas, places that are inaccessible, we're introducing in the first phase about 500 of these tricycle compactors, which will also be operated by PSP operators. So that will give people in those areas an option. The same PSP operator, but they'll now be collecting pay-as-you-go, whether it's 100 or 200 naira each time. But the cart pushers operation can't be, unless they also are able to acquire the approved equipment and dump at the approved location.
My head is just going for all fuzzy now. One of the things that I'm interested in is how people will be able to take advantage of this thing that you're talking about. But before that, Harrison is talking about how do you pay for services not rendered? Most PSP operators here in Orile Igomu come around in 2 weeks, once in 2 weeks. Is that proper?
No, that's not proper. And we encourage people to register complaints immediately. We have a toll-free line.
How?
070-8060-1020. We call that line
070-80-60-10-10-20.
Call that line and register your complaint so that we can take immediate action. We can caution the PSP.
Let's help you grab that number. 70 80 60 10 20 80601020.
Yes.
070. Okay. All right.
So you can call that line. You can also email us. There's a lot of people are using email now. You can email us info@lawma.gov.ng. info@lawma.gov.ng.
So this is your website?
Yes.
Okay.
So we take immediate action on that. We have a monitoring system set up, to make sure PSP operators are working.
Okay.
So if they're not coming on time, you should let us know. And keep your receipts. Keep a record of your receipts that you've paid for. Because we'll soon start to show your receipts. Remember, I said it's a law. We'll start to show your receipt. In some places, people are not paying the PSP operator, and then they resort to using cart pushers. And that's wrong, because the cart pusher is going to go and dump on the roadside. A lot of the ways to see, the cart pushers come out at night, and we spend all night chasing them around Lagos. It's wrong.
Well,
so
I think Joel...
That's unsustainable.
Joel Olaiton agrees with you. He says, and this one is from UT, he said, paying bills, especially for waste, is a major issue which most people are actually guilty of. You talked about the process of paying these bills. You talked about the cowrie cards. How many people are aware of it from the data available to you? You said a population of 22 million. How do people are aware of it, and how do they get it to be able to access this?
Well, the cowrie card is available to every Lagosian. We also have the Lagos State Residence Registration Card. That once you're registered, it's also a smart card. It's available. You can go to your local government and do the registration there, and they'll issue you with that card. And right now, one of the most important functionalities that people are enjoying is the blue line, which we started some months ago with hundreds and thousands of trips every day, and people are using this cowrie card to access it. And
definitely.
Yes, and by the time we are publicizing our recycling initiative and the incentives and the money you can make on it, we want to use that same card so that you don't have multiple cards. So we'll also, even at the train stations and the BRT stations, we will have recycling depots there. So you can take your recyclables, bring it there, pop in your cowrie card. And one of the incentives is going to be a reduction on the amount you're paying for your transport. So it becomes a win-win. If you're going on the train, bring some recyclables and you can get some percentage off whatever you have to pay.
Back to trade by barter. Okay. Dave sent this in from Ilasan Lekki. He says, we need your intervention at number 4, Dele Amoda Street, Ilasan Lekki. It's an epidemic waiting to erupt, he says. Refuse and sewage unleashed on the street.
We will send a team there today.
Okay.
So number 4, Dele
Amoda Street.
Amoda Street.
Ilasan Lekki.
We'll send a team there today.
Okay. Well, I wanted to, ask on that. What's the process of, so there are people who are in various estates across the city and who are listening and saying, well, this sounds good. In fact, they probably have a whole warehouse of recyclables waiting, for this kind of innovation. What do they do? What's their first step? They can't just put them all out.
So, I said, we have recyclers who are registered by the state government.
Is it on your website?
It's on the website.
Okay.
You go to the website, lawma.gov.ng. We have recyclers registered. If you're interested, call our toll-free line or go to that website. But in addition, we have advocacy units that go from local government to local government and ward to ward. We're also working with the local government chairman and supervisors for environment. We're working with the CDA, CDCs, and estate associations. So some estates have reached out to us about their interest in recycling. Okay. For each of those areas, we're going to assign one of these recyclers that, okay, you take over this location. And then they will introduce themselves to each household and register them, and then they can begin to collect recyclables on a regular basis from them. So
now
this is something that you start getting.
So these are the registered recyclers on the screen now?
Yes, these are registered recyclers.
Okay.
As of, now what we want to do is to organize it a little bit better, so that the estates, if you live in an estate, we'll send someone to you who is a recycler to say, okay, work with this person.
Okay.
And some already have it, but we're rolling out as quickly as possible. So you can, if you live in an estate, get in touch with your estate association and come together as a group. If you don't live in an estate, we'll still get information through your local government and
I think you need to
CDA.
I think you need to come back another time.
I would love to.
If you have to pay, then you have to pay. This one is Patrick. He says, there are many streets and roads that the PSP vehicles cannot access. You talked about it the other time. How are you intervening on that? We want to, that one is Patrick is talking about the Lagos Cleanup Initiative. And then we also have, that one is from actually, it's Patrick. He couldn't be writing from Abidjan because we're in Lagos, Nigeria. Okay, so how do you...
So I talked about that, inaccessible areas, we are introducing tricycle compactors.
Okay.
So they're mini compactors, tricycle, but enclosed space.
Okay.
And those will be supported with mobile transfer loading stations.
Okay.
So that they'll be able to, they'll dump, the mobile transfer loading station is a trailer that can compact waste and then take that waste to the dump site from any location.
Wow, it's a lot to deal with. I hope you're able to sleep in the night. But thank you so much for all that you do. Cleaning up after 22 million people is not small work. We really do appreciate the work that you do, and we wish you all the best. Dr. Muyiwa Gbadegeshin is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Lagos Waste Management Authority, LAWMA. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. So, when we return, in all of these 22 million people, I don't know how many of them are children, but then there's a significant number of them that are parents. And it's the digital age. How do you parent digital natives when you are a digital immigrant? We'll talk about that after this.